Alright. Gonna try and keep my voice at a reasonable volume for this one. Uh, so, my, my laptop got weirdly shifted over. Okay, that's weird. Alright, I had literally just noticed that right now. So, about a page and a half, you can barely see that. I apologize for the lines on that, because that is my webcam trying to adjust to all of the white that is happening. You really can barely see that unless it goes to the scanline thing. But yeah, page and a half of notes. Hopefully I'll have a better lighting setup and then that'll fix everything, because that would be nice. So about a page and a half of notes today. Not a lot. Now what's funny is that admittedly that is still more than I thought I would have for this one, because this is a setup episode. That's all it is. It's just meant to set up, the Battle City semifinals. As I move my hair back. So, let's start with the fact that this was actually pretty close. Not just in terms of my preference, but in terms of like how little they changed in this one. Because there's some aspects I like better in the dub, and then there's some aspects that I like better in the sub. So for example, part of that example, if I had to pick one, I'd say that the dub going over the stupid prophecy again with Merrick talking about ancient Egypt, that works better in the dub, because it's not as much of as you know dialogue. Although it is still as you know dialogue, admittedly. Excuse me. I liked the bonding between Joey and Serenity better in the sub. Ditto with Mokuba being a dick to the goons, and I like the goons better in the dub. So, yeah. There are some aspects of it that are actually a lot better. And then there's other stuff like I prefer the what they try to do with the rivalry between Joey and Kaiba in the dub, although I still fucking hate the dialogue of that. And yeah. For the most part, this is just kind of a nothing burger episode. I could have easily said that this one was a neither, and it would have been perfectly serviceable. I also failed to do something. Whoops. I just remembered I forgot to do something. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I forgot about a thing that we'll discuss later. Let's just say that the bottom of the second page there got filled out, and leave it at that for now. Okay. What was I saying? Right. There's not a lot. There's some stuff I like in the sub, and some things that I like in the dub, and yeah, there's not a lot for me to actually sit and discuss. I do have a couple of topics before we get to the big thing that I just had to pause, and we'll have to stitch together facets of this thing in order to go ahead and do. But for now, let's just go ahead and get into the two minor things I have to talk. Well, technically three minor things I have to talk about. One of which I've already talked about, and the rest I will talk about now. So, the first minor thing I want to talk about. Well, I guess there's actually four things. The first is Kaiba sensing Merrick. I kind of like that, as weird as that probably sounds, because Kaiba sensing Merrick seems like it'd be a weird thing. It seems like a weird thing, and it is. But it's weirdly interesting because in many ways Kaiba kind of almost seems like his capabilities almost seem almost superhuman when you think about it. Don't they? But the funny thing about Kaiba, Kaiba is both Seto and Kaiba, by the way, is that, how do I phrase this? He's simultaneously brilliantly written in this episode and kind of weirdly written in this episode, mostly because the railroading that I've been mentioning up until now from the late Kazuki Takahashi. Which is funny because that basically means manga Kaiba is kind of squandering the characterization of Seto, isn't it? But that's neither here nor there. The second minor thing I want to bring up is the seeing through things. It's because I actually have two notes on this. The first is Joey being skeptical, specifically of Namu, aka Merrick, before Odeon shows up posing as Merrick. Eric, and my pages are a little curled. Anyways, but yeah, specifically it comes to Merrick and to Namu to Merrick being Namu and of course Bakura being, well, Yami Bakura. My note in the dub actually is very, very clear. Bakura is sniffed out. Good. Because it basically shows that the characters actually have a brain in their head. Or at the very least, Yugi has a brain in his head. Because if you notice, in both versions, it's Yugi that sniffs out Yami Bakura. Not a Tem. Think about that for a second. Yugi sniffs him out. I kind of wish the sub kind of made them dual protagonists a bit more than they actually do, because it's mostly a Tem in the driver's seat, but that's beside the point. Although I do have a note about that I'll mention near the end before we get to my big topic. Because, then I'll be done with the episode, and if you're only here for the episode, well, there you go. So I like Joey being skeptical. I also like that in the Japanese version, it's implied that Merrick quietly mind controls Taya to kind of get her to just kind of hand wave Joey's suspicions away. Namely, just kind of have him say, "Move on, introduce Namu to Yugi," that kind of thing. In other words, whispering in the ear kind of thing. Which is good. I do like that that Anzu is not aware she's still under mind control, technically. And as we established back in Friends to the End, 2 weeks ago in Friends to the End, Anzu is full on mind control. It's full on mind control with Anzu. Like the actual way that the dub fucked up on with Joey during that 4-parter. Harder with, right? But I digress. So then Odeon shows up posing as Merrick because, of course. Oh, I forgot something right at the beginning. Ending. Speaking of Merrick, Merrick, both Namu and Odeon. The third opening, Wild Drive, in the sub has shown up. I'm gonna say something a little bit weird. Wild Drive is my least favorite opening of DM. And of the very few Japanese openings for, Japanese opening songs that I have heard for Yu-Gi-Oh! Openings, it is also my second least favorite overall. Now, keep in mind, I will obviously have to pay attention to, well, everything from after GX because I haven't heard any of them. But we'll go from there, right? If you're curious what my favorites are, funny enough, there are 3 of them, and 2 of them are here in DM. Again, limited because I've only seen 2 shows, the English the Japanese openings of 2 distinct shows, specifically DM and GX. So my 3 favorites are literally, it's called Overlap, aka the Dawn of the Duel, the Millennium World Arcs opening. Precious Time, Glory Days, GX's 4th season opener, and Voice, Season 1's opening of DM. Which, honestly, is actually kind of it's kind of funny that those are my favorite, right? I'm not trying to say that every other opening is bad, with one exception that everybody's gonna want to fucking wring my neck over, specifically GX's first opening. But yeah, there's ones I don't gel with as well. Warriors coming to mind immediately, the next opening, which we won't get for a while, admittedly. That's pretty much it. I don't remember, there's 3 that I know from GX. I don't remember the 4th one because I'm pretty sure there's 4 in GX, and I only know 3 of them. Which, fun fact, I was actually introduced to the 3rd season of the opener from season 3, Teardrop by Bowl, through an edit that a friend of mine made. Because we were originally going to have our own little audio drama thing, and we were going to use that as our opening for a specific arc that was based upon the Soul Society arc of Bleach. And it fits weirdly well, which is kind of funny because if you know what episodes Teardrop by Bolt plays for during GX, that's actually kind of fitting. For incredibly different reasons, because, the whole reason why one of the heroes is absent is different. Actually, a lot of the heroes are absent during that, aren't they? Ugh. Anyways, point is that it was kind of fitting. It's a great song. If you haven't heard Teardrop by Bowl, I recommend it. I highly recommend you hunt down the full song. Great song. But yeah, Wild Drive, not my favorite. Also, that's where a lie that from the openings was there. Specifically, the Yugi versus Merrick thing being hinted at to be on the blimp, when in reality it's going to be over at Alcatraz Tower, and that's not even the correct version. And that's not even the correct version of Merrick. But again, they don't want to spoil things, so there's that. And they really don't want people cringing at the opening every time they seek it out. Ugh. Four more video. By the way, hey, there will be we will be four more. So total of like 5. No, is it? No, sorry, 3 more videos past this one. This is the first of 4 videos where we will be guaranteed to be rant view free, because I have always liked Dark Spirit Revealed. I actually don't remember the standalone in between Dark Spirit Revealed and the Odeon duel. Freaking yawn attack. Ugh. And yeah. And then immediately after that, we jump into that fucking 3-parter. You know the one if you've seen this series. You know the 3-parter that I'm fucking dreading talking about. Especially considering I literally named Evil Dark Spirit Revealed and the frickin' Odeon duels. What's right after that one? I'll give you a hint. It continues the theme of unintended misogyny. And just leave it at that for now. Anyways, was there anything else? I don't really need to talk about Rashid's promise almost too much. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. Interesting dub censorship. There's still blood on Bakura's bandage to kind of further continue the worry thing. I do like that in both versions, Kaiba explains himself. That's kind of cool. So then his airship, his blimp, shows up. That's cool. I do, again, like I said, I like that Kaiba explains himself about why he's letting Merrick stay in the tournament. Because, as we'll go over in the big talking point I have for this, yeah, Kaiba's allowing a lot of cheating to go on because he wants the Winged Dragon of Ra. And Slave for the Sky. Oh my fucking god, I just did that, didn't I? Ugh, sorry. The Winged Dragon of Ra and he wants the Winged Dragon of Ra and Osiris the Heaven Dragon. God. Yeah, it's the one 4Kids thing that I still do not wish to dignify. And yet I keep doing it because, again, Anyways. Oh yeah, by the way, in answer to the question of whether or not I'm in favor of culture appropriation, but that's beside the point. That's a complicated issue, admittedly, but I do think that each individual country should have its own culture. Culture, right? In other words, don't force the culture onto to a country you flee to, kind of thing. Live by it obviously, but just don't force it down other people's throats, you know? And there we go. Like I said, trying to get better about those It was making it obvious to make edits. So there you go. So then, Roland and the other goons are being like, "No, you can't come on to anybody without an ID card." I almost feel like Kaiba should have accounted for this, admittedly, because come on, you knew this was going to happen, right? Now, granted, outside of like a couple of outside of a couple of things, there was no real need for that. So I suppose that's neither here nor there, but you get the point. So there's that. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, I'm just kind of weird because both Seto and Kaiba are just like whatever, just ignore them. They're harmless. Let's move on, which is good. So then Ishizu shows up, hiding her face because I don't know. Oh, why? I I'm gonna try and pay attention to see why, if there's a reason why, because it's fucking pointless. Hiding your face is like, if from memory, I'm pretty sure they know immediately who, or at the bare minimum, frickin' Merrick knows that it's her immediately. So, what the fuck was the point? You know. So then Kaiba annoys Joey when he's trying to, he's trying to act cool in front of his sister. And then he calls out Yugi for not having used Osiris, which is funny because that slip up earlier actually is doubly bad, considering in the dub notes I literally wrote it as Osiris because I want to stick to that. How's that for irony? Anywho. But yeah, he calls it out. In the sub, he actually noticed during Loomis and Umbra that he put it aside, which interesting. And yes, I am willing to call them by their dub names because again, they didn't have names in the Japanese version. It's also why I will be calling the Mike Pollock character from season 4 Garimo, for example, because only one version bothered to name the dude. So. So then, excuse me, god damn it. Ugh. So then Joey and Serenity kind of have some callbacks with the beach specifically being called out in the Japanese version. Joey's determination is also better in the sub, as I mentioned. As is Mokuba's reaction, because Mokuba's a dick. Along with, Duke / Otogi. Here, I'm gonna flirt with Joey's sister. I'm going to flirt with the girl that clearly holds her brother in very high regard. The same brother I humiliated like an asshole. Complete with assault. I am never letting that go. Even if he was more misogynistic in the dub. Anyways. The sub also mentions that Merrick is controlling normal Bakura, which is pointless, and which is honestly just kind of fucking pointless. I mean, listen, I kind of preferred it to all be an act, but I digress. Anything else? Oh yeah, that's the same scene that also has that. Um, I guess there is one last. So there's like two last things I want to talk about before we get to my big talking point. The first is the Millennium items having kind of connecting to the Nordic God of War games. Hear me out. Mild spoilers, I guess, for the Nordic God of War games. There's a specific weapon of Kratos's from the Greek saga that he tried to dispose of in between in the sagas, and they showed back up. Yeah, that's what the Millennium Ring does. Honda flung it as far as he could back on Duelist Kingdom Island, but it still found its way back to Bakura. We saw that actually at the end of Duelist Kingdom, weirdly enough. So, yeah. So that was kind of cool. There's also a cutaway to Yami Bakura eating a steak and declaring that it's not bloody enough. Okay. I'm not sure if that's censorship or if that's something they actually plugged into the next episode. So I'll have to see whenever I get around when I get around to doing that, because I can't do that today, obviously. Got too much to do, including, making up for the fact that I didn't stream yesterday because I was weirdly tired. Regardless, though, oh, uh, there's one thing I want to talk about. Yugi built the deck. It feels like Yugi is the deck builder of the team. This is why I say that the whole it's a Tem constantly in the driver's seat thing never worked for me. Because it always felt like they were a team, one way or another, you know? It's actually one of the reasons why I've always preferred the merger idea. Which also made the mind, weirdly enough, made the mind shuffle make more sense. How ironic is that, Well, simultaneously made the mind shuffle work and not work, but that's beside the point. I also preferred the Joey and Namu bit in the dub, just as a little thing. And then, of course, the whole Mystery of the Eighth Duelists thing, which is just nah. And then we get a cool transformation to end out the episode. I do like it, admittedly. So, I shouldn't close my notebook because I'm not quite done yet. One moment. I hate when my nose does that. Anyways. So, there is a topic I wanted to. Now, I'm debating whether or not I even want to bother with this topic. Because, or just kind of bookmark it for later. So, I'm almost tempted to just skip ahead to to the episode we'll be talking about in 2 videos. But I think for now, what I'll do, actually, no, I'm pretty sure that episode I'm going to actually have a topic to talk about. So, never mind. So, that's it for my rundown of the episode. The episode's fine, right? And I just said I shouldn't close my book. hook yet. So let's move on to our big topic. I won't spend too much time on this, but I wanted to talk about the Battle City tournament and its rules. Now, admittedly, this info comes from two sources. A video by TGS Anime, which I will link in the description, and the wiki, which I assume most of his information came from. Now, the thing is that I've hinted at the fact that during an episode that may or may not end up being called Clash in the Coliseum in the dub. I'm not the only one who's declared this, but there's been people that have said that Yugi cheats. He technically doesn't. It's just that we don't really. A lot of the Battle City tournament rules don't really get established until Alcatraz Island. Which, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it for right now. Let's just say the blimp is going somewhere here and leave it at that for now. The thing about the Battle City tournament is that its rules are all over the goddamn place, and it simultaneously plays like and unlike the real card game. So I actually jotted down some of the rules that are actually different from the real card game, and some of which we have explained moments that that we've already seen, and ones that will explain things further. And I will try not to elaborate on that. So, first and foremost, this one was actually mentioned in dialogue in the sub all the way back in. I am not actually sure what that episode was. Let's see. I want to say that was. I think that was Obelisk the Tormentor. That was either Obelisk the Tormentor or Stalked by Rare Hunters. Hunters, I think. Where Kaiba mentioned that when he was, giving a brief overview of the Battle City tournament. The anti-rule, which we've already covered. Burn cards being banned. This was something we brought up over in Friends to the End, the Anchor Duel. Which apparently is direct burn cards with no cost, and board wipes were both banned. Now, the reason I put a question mark was I kind of questioned that, but then I realized, oh, wait a minute. That's only Merrick, and again, Merrick was getting away with it because Kaiba wants Ra and Osiris, as I mentioned earlier. So there's that. Monster Reborn is limited to one. We won't learn that one until literally the final match of the tournament. How's that for annoying? I mean, sorry about that. Awkward cut is awkward. Anywho, so there's apparently a 5-minute time limit for turns. That's actually why people can have, go through an entire freaking inner monologue about their strategies. Then there's Sacrifice Escape. Now, this is actually something that will actually cover a plot hole. Sadly, we'll cover a plot hole in Pyramid of Light. Because I was going to talk about how because that's a movie commissioned by 4Kids, that how 4Kids doesn't understand how the game was played. Now, I could still go with that, considering that's a post-Battle City thing, but let's face it, I'm pretty sure the intent is that still follows Battle City rules, right? A kind of unofficial final round, an unofficial post Battle City exposition match kind of thing. In other words, you beat the campaign mode. Now here's the super optional at the end of the end of the game kind of thing. So, but no, what Sacrifice Escape is as the thing will do it. This actually appears in the Doma arc too. Which is something I'll have to mention when I get there. which is something I'm gonna have to mention and pay attention to the subtitles on when we get there. But yeah, so what Sacrifice Escape is okay. Let's say you have let's just say for example you have Queen's Knight on the field and you uh activate a card that removes Queen's Knight from the field. Let's say a card called Magical Academy, which lets you sacrifice Queen's Knight in order to go ahead and summon Dark Magician Girl, right? That it negates the attack. Full on negates the attack. There is no replay in the Battle City tournament. Which makes a lot of things make a lot more sense. It's that's why I say anime rulings versus, real world rulings, because, replays actually exist in our modern thing. Although Sacrifice Escape is actually kind of an interesting mechanic, and I kind of like it, as weird as that sounds. So, then there's monsters that act as equip cards, either through effects where they attach themselves onto stuff like Kisatai or a monster later on, or union monsters, which we haven't even encountered yet because we haven't encountered the XYZ Dragon Cannon yet. I've been paying attention. We haven't encountered it yet. As weird as that sounds, we have not encountered that thing yet. How's that for weird? I don't remember when the first time we do encounter it is, so I'll pay attention to that. I don't think it's in Change the Future, but we'll see. But the point is that those union monsters that attach themselves to other things, they're treated as both spells and monsters. So a Raigeki or a Heavy Storm could just destroy them. The Raigeki would just destroy the monster it's equipped to as well, as opposed to the Heavy Storm, which would just get rid of the union monsters. Sense make? Then there's fusion monsters, which count as many tributes as they have materials if you tribute them for a tribute summon, and they also have the summon sickness ability, which yeah. Uh, Give me a second here. I want to double check something. So, okay. Sorry, I was just checking something. Anyways, but yeah, so fusion monsters basically count as material. So, for example, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, if you sacrificed it, you could summon an Egyptian God card because he counts as because that sucker counts as 3 because it's a fusion of 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. Sense make? Kind of a silly rule, but there it is. They have summon sickness. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, although I don't remember if I think there is one monster that kind of cheated. One time this was cheated on, and that was not caught by anybody because they were still crafting it, and that was Chimera. But that's beside the point. Actually, I'd have to go back and rewatch that episode in the dub because nostalgia. But yeah. But anywho, this is one that kind of will come into play a lot on Alcatraz Island, not here. The graveyard is not public knowledge. That one weirds me out because for those not in the know, in the real card game, the graveyard is public knowledge. May I look through your graveyard? Yes, go ahead. Because that's public knowledge. Now, obviously, you ask permission to be polite, but that's beside the point. You are allowed to look through your opponent's graveyard. Then there's then there's one where it's like, thank God Link monsters are still decades away. Tokens don't take up monster zones. Oh, and they can absorb attacks. So if you summon a token during the battle phase, it takes the attack. How's that for irony? My next note is time seal was legal because effects can be done before the start of the draw phase. In other words, you can declare the activation of an effect before the player turn draws. My turn, earn effect activate. That kind of thing. Which is dumb, but there it is. All spells are hard once per turns and are considered quick plays. Yes. So what this means now, if you're unfamiliar with the term hard once per turn, there's two different types of once per turn. There's a what is known as a soft once per turn and a hard once per turn. A soft once per turn is a card just says once per turn. Earn blah 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 blah. That copy, while it's on the field, can use their effect once per turn. But if the card gets, say, sent away and then monster reborn, you can then use the effect again because now the effect basically reset. Sense make? A hard once per turn is when a card says you can only activate the effect of, just as an example, let's say you have I don't know. Let's say you have a monster called. Oof, that didn't sound good. Anyways, sorry. Let's say you have a card that says you can only use this card's effect once per turn. There are several cards. More modern Yu-Gi-Oh has been really throwing that idea in there. It will say you can only use this card's effect. Use the effect of a card called this card once per turn. So for example, let's say a hard once per turn, Aaron would be something like let's say if Pot of Greed said draw 2 cards, or you can only activate 1 Pot of Greed per turn. That kind of thing. That would be a hard once per turn. This didn't really exist a lot in the older Yu-Gi-Oh! This is also why this rule was in place. Also, there is apparently a rule. Well, okay, I guess this ties into that. But this is also why you don't, for example, see frickin' Seeker activating all 3 of his Graceful Charities on the first turn to get out of Exodia on the first turn, kind of thing. Why it took him a few turns, right? Also, they are all treated as quick plays, which means you can activate them from your hand in the battle phase, and you can also set them and activate them like they're traps. That's on your opponent's turn. This was also a ruling in the manga, for the record. Effects don't linger, which means if you destroy a card, the effects literally disappear like that, which means yes, MST actually negates during Battle City, apparently. Not helping with the fucking meme, Kaiba, just saying. So field cards sit in the spell and trap zone until they're activated, and then they move to the field zone. Own. And of course, cards like Flute of Summoning Dragons and the Dark Magic Curtain affect both sides of the field. Yeah, Battle City has all of these wacky rules, and this is actually one of the reasons why I can't really, in good consciousness, say Battle City is my favorite thing. Now, obviously, the anime is always going to have its own rules. I mean, I was the one basically summing up Duelist Kingdom as D&D, right? Because that's what Duelist Kingdom was. It was D&D. It wasn't really Duel Monsters. It's just at that point. But the funny thing about Battle City is that even with all of these wacky rules, it's a very interesting and very lucrative arc. It is. And I don't want to, I don't want to dismiss it as, I'm not trying to say that Battle City is garbage. It's not a garbage arc by any stretch of the imagination. It is a good arc. I just don't think it's the height of storytelling like everybody else does in the Yu-Gi-Oh series. I can actually name some things that are above it. But then again, I'm also one of those jackasses who says that the worst Yu-Gi-Oh arc he has ever fucking seen. We'll see if the sub has anything to say about this, but the worst Yu-Gi-Oh arc that I have personally seen ever. And again, I want to stress I've only seen it dubbed, so the sub could fix this, but I fucking hate the Society of Light arc. GX Season 2. I fucking hate that arc with a burning passion. Like, I despise that arc with every fiber of my being because it is such a bullshit arc that I just. You know? There is no arc in DM that I actively hate with a passion. Well, aside from Grand Championship, but even my hatred of Grand Championship, for as bad as Grand Championship is, and oh god, is Grand Championship terabad. Yes, worse than Capsule Monsters. I am more than willing to fucking say that. Capsule Monsters, at least, was just silly, stupid fun. And dumb dialogue like "that's no teapot" notwithstanding. But the problem here, but yeah, no. My overall point is that I like Battle City, but I don't gush over Battle City as much as other people do, you know. Which is funny because I've actually talked about this episode more than I thought I would. How's that for irony? Oh man, because my second the second part of this is because I had to stop the recording to go check out the other thing. Yeah, so yeah, I've been almost talking for like I've been talking for like 50 minutes at this point from my timer's perspective. We'll see how much of that I trim out. Oh, because again, there's two edits that come to mind immediately, and one that was actually pretty long. So we'll see. But regardless, I'm gonna stop rambling now. The Battle City Finals have begun. I'm finally here. It's a weird feeling, I'm not gonna lie. Next week is a three-parter that I'm actually really looking forward to talking about, and I'm really curious which version of this duel I'm gonna prefer. Whether it's the sub with its epic fucking music. I've seen some scenes from this duel in the sub. It has some fucking epic music. Epic. It has some fucking epic music. Or the nostalgia of me really preferring Ted Lewis's Yamabakura. Hell, for all I know, it could be a mix and match thing. And you know what? Even if nostalgia does give the 3 points to the dub on the next one, yeah, the score, if we count this episode right here, is 31 to 16 in the sub's favor. I think we can throw the dub a Destiny board shaped a bone, you know? Anywho, as I said, I've rambled on long enough. This is Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. We'll see you in the next one. Let me try that again. And I'll probably edit out that stupid thing. My apologies. I have rambled enough. I will see you guys next time for Dark Spirit of the Ring. Until then, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. Duel stand by.